Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Dog Classroom podcast. I'm Amelia.
And I'm Anne-Marie.
And today we are going to talk about house training and crate training. So we have some demo dogs with us today. We have Tulip, who is waiting very patiently in the crate, and Little B, who's here for moral support.
Right, yes.
And he just likes to be included. But we're going to start with talking about house training in general because crate training is a little bit more specific, so we want to do some demos with that. But to start, why don't we talk about house training, like when you should take them out? What should we be looking for?
Okay, so the thing is, just to add to the house training thing, anytime we say house training, everybody just assumes puppy.
Yes.
Right? But it should also be older dogs, rescue dogs, because you don't necessarily know their routine.
Right, and we can also say that when they don't generalize the house training to other buildings, such as the training space,
right,
we see accidents. So when you
Good
bring your dog to visit your friend's house, you would almost like revisit, as I do when I bring my dog somewhere. I revisit these little basics, and I'm like, okay, I need to watch for X, Y, and Z to know when they need to go out.
Okay, so first thing is, this might lean a little bit more to puppies, but anytime they've had a nap or sleep, as soon as they wake up, they should go out.
Yeah, and I think that's one that people don't realize. They think like, oh, they've been still, they've been not moving, like, because we all know, like, if the puppy's running around doing zoomies, yeah, we should take them out. But if we're just napping and we're so cute on the couch and we're just chilling, but that's actually, when they wake up, they really need to go, usually within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important one. The other thing is after they've been playing, like even if you're just playing tug, or if they're playing with your other dog, or they're doing a lot of movement, I find that gets things moving for them too. So.
Yeah, and I try to joke a little bit as I say the same thing with people, is the reason why we go to the washroom more throughout the day than when we're sleeping is because we're actually moving around, and it's the same thing with puppies. So let's talk for a second. We're talking about timing when they should go. One thing I want to mention is for any new dog in a house, you should try to use the same door. Mm-hmm. Have that door very accessible in the room that you are. So kitchen, family room, that door should be right there. It shouldn't be, they have to go down and around and say in the basement, right? It should be right there. The other thing is roughly bringing them out to the same spot in the yard. And when I say bringing them out, even though you may have a fenced in backyard, I still highly recommend to put them on a long line or a leash to encourage them to go, and then once they've gone, they may get the leash off and run around, because when they're younger, some get so excited about going out and sniffing that they actually forget to go to the bathroom, because how many times have we heard, well, they were out there for an hour? Yes,
and also, if they're distracted, they'll do like a little pee, and then they get distracted, and then they come inside and pee.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times, it's like, no, keep them out there, walk them around that same little area so that it's not that exciting, and make sure they go twice.
Yeah, because a lot of them will go multiple times, and that's what happens is they'll go to the bathroom, you rush them back inside, and yes, they pee in the middle of the floor.
Yeah, and then also if they've had water, you're gonna know to watch that they need to go outside.
Yeah. So big drink of water.
Yeah.
After they wake up, after they have a play.
Okay. The other thing is after they've eaten, here's my thought. When I'm house training...
All right, so we're maybe only talking a little bit about pee. You're going for the other one.
I'm going for the other one, unfortunately.
Okay.
When I'm house training adult dog, puppy, small dog, I need to know when they have eaten. I can't just put down a bowl of food and go, okay, hope for the best, because I want to know after they've eaten, within 30 minutes or so, we're going out.
Right.
Because otherwise, even if it's an adult dog that just hasn't had that kind of schedule before, they may not know how to hold it for longer, because they just haven't worked up that skill. And I want to make sure that I know when they've eaten so that I can take them out at the appropriate time. Because we all think about, having a pee mess on the floor, but we do have to make sure that we know when they've eaten and what they've eaten, which leads me to my next point of not just giving any new dog straight up free roam of the house immediately at all times.
Yeah.
And I think people think it's a little bit restrictive. And I know Trainer Mike talked about this on his podcast that he did, but you start them with an area and then that area grows and they get more freedom. But it's because if I say, okay, I'm upstairs and my puppy's downstairs, I don't know if they've gone. I'm not watching them. How would I know if it's time to take them out? And then I get upset that they're having an accident in the house.
But it's actually probably, you should be upset at yourself for leaving them alone with free roam in the house.
Yeah, and even if like they're hanging around you and you're in the living room and they're all hanging out and the puppy goes off because there's no gate or pen or anything, like they go off somewhere else, chances are they're going to pee somewhere else. And I know we see it a lot with the small dogs in the basement.
Yes.
If they just can go to the basement, it's like a whole other house.
Right, but let's explain why sometimes they go to the basement or go off into another room. It's because they have received some sort of discipline sometimes in the presence of you.
Yeah.
So if they don't know how to show you or if they don't know where the door is, they don't want to get in trouble, so they sneak off and do it in another room.
Yeah, and I think like the year is 2025, but we're still hearing rub their nose in it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, all that's teaching your dog is that you are weird and scary.
Yeah.
And that they should never pee in front of you.
Yeah.
So then you go to take your dog for a walk and they're scared and they won't go pee because they've associated that.
Yeah.
And then, with the small dogs, a lot of the time it's in the house because it's just so big and it's not their area and they don't care.
Yeah.
They will go down there and poop.
Yeah.
So watching the dog and actively managing that and not saying, okay, here's free roam of the house. And then also when you are outside with them, watching them there too. Because how many times have we said, okay, well, did they pee or poo before bed? And it's like, I don't know, I wasn't out there.
Yes, yeah. And that's the tricky thing. And honestly, you know, if you get a puppy in winter, well, you get a puppy in winter, you know, put the boots by the back door with the jacket because, you're just going to put a puppy outside and expect them to go where we actually haven't taught them to do that because especially with some breeders, whether they're using paper or pee pads, which we're going to talk about, they don't know to cross that threshold and go outside.
Yeah, and I think when they're outside, we need to be watching and we also need to reward the good behavior, right? You've gone outside.
Treats in your pocket. Yep.
I have treats in my pocket. I'm not touching those treats until the puppy is done.
And
because
then you're rewarded.
If you reach mid-pee, then
stop.
They're going to stop and then you're going to have an accident in the house. So I wait till they're done. As soon as they're done, good job, we party, I reach for a treat, and then they know, oh, it's really cool when I go in this area.
Right.
Instead of.
So they realize I do this thing and then I get rewarded. So then they will start to make the association and then ask to sort of go out more often. And like I said, same door, same location, right? Don't switch doors on them. Keep it very simple.
Yeah.
Right?
And if you have an apartment or stairs or whatever.
That's another,
Like they go to that spot and you take them out. Like they go to your apartment door and then you bring them out and you can carry them if they're not going to make it. Or if you have, like they have the stairs at my house, the up and down.
Right.
So yes, there's stairs. I have a gate there. If Nuggie goes to the gate and cries, I know she has to go out. So I will open the gate and take her out.
Right.
Like they know where to go when they have to go out.
Right.
So why don't we briefly talk about bells? Because I always get asked that question, and it's not something I've ever done personally.
Neither have I.
Because for me, yes, it's helpful if you are not near your puppy to be watching them, which I'm saying, why are you not close enough to see them anyway? And then to me, it just doesn't really make sense for a young puppy or a new dog.
I think sometimes if you create going to the same door and rewarding them doing their business outside, the cueing will come.
Yeah.
You know, like Maui now will woof. Bee will pace back and forth. Frolic will hit the door. You know what I mean? And so they have their own little way of triggering that. I get the bell thing. And just to break it down real quick is anytime we go out the door, we try to show them that you ring the bell and then you go out the door, right? So they're trying to make the association. So they're letting people know. The tricky thing is some dogs then find it a little bit fun, they ring the bell and go out when they don't necessarily have to go to the bathroom. But when we're talking in the beginning stages, that dog should be in the same room. And this is what I was going to go back to something you said, is if you're in the shower, the dog should either be in the bathroom possibly with you or in a crate or in a pendant area, not loose downstairs.
Exactly.
To make a mess. Because if you go downstairs and find the mess, don't even think about, don't discipline them because that was your issue. They were probably trying to tell you and you were nowhere.
Yeah.
Right? So when we're having to go to those other parts of the house, it's okay to put them in the pen. And this helps a lot with decreasing separation anxiety, where they learn to just hang out in the house for 20 minutes, half an hour while they sort of hear you moving around. Yeah. That's actually not a bad thing.
And well, that's why I want to talk about crate training with house training, right? Because a lot of people find it super useful to have a crate during house training. There's lots of other reasons for it, but to have a crate, or even like, it doesn't have to be a crate. It can be a penned area, it can be a room, whatever. But to teach them to be in this space while you're doing something else, and then they can feel confident in there and not stress out about it, like you're saying with separation anxiety. Yeah. So are we ready? Or did you want to talk about pee pads first?
Yeah, let's just don't do it.
You don't like them?
No, I don't. Yeah. I think it's a confusing step. Mm-hmm. I understand why people do it. And I think if the dog was like 90% at doing it, great. But I find it's a lot of hit and miss, to be honest, where they go in different spots. And I find dogs that have used pee pads then pee on carpets, then pee on magazines and newspapers because they think any
different texture
mat
on the
or
floor.
Different texture is to go. Yeah. And I think it's about, yes, bringing the puppy there each time, but honestly, if you took the time and brought the puppy out every 45 minutes to an hour outside the door, just put the extra step in. Yeah. I also get it. February.
Nuggie was a January puppy.
Yeah, got the 1 pound Chihuahua, but the thing is, I tried it because I was worried about the cold, and what I ended up coming out with is I had a tray of straw. I read it in a magazine, brought her out the door, reason why straw, they don't freeze their feet. Went to the bathroom, treated her, boom, back in. Yeah. And if this little thing can do that at that age, like, you just clear the snow, you have a little path, and there you go. Because again, it's very hit and miss.
Yeah. And even like with the little tiny ones, like if you have a little apartment with like a balcony or something, like you put the straw on the balcony and they're outside. There you go. Right?
And they also have these extravagant grass system things.
I have a less extravagant one. Nuggie hates it, but I have it.
But some people have sworn by it. Yeah. But you put it, outside on the balcony and you clean it like a litter box.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so switching gears to, if we are going to use a crate or a pen in our training, there is sort of a way that we like to introduce it, because a lot of the time, people will read online that dogs are den animals and you can just shove them in and they'll like it. Right. Or let them cry it out and they'll get used to it. And then we see dogs who people think have separation anxiety, but actually just have confinement anxiety because they've been shoved in a box. Yeah, and they're
terrified, and the positive association isn't there. Yeah. So I thought it was a good idea to bring Tulip today to do this. She hasn't been in a crate for 9 years. Yeah. She was as a puppy for house training. Yeah. Right? The thing about using it for house training is they're not able to wander off. And then the other thing too is then we know when they're sleeping or still-ish. Yeah. And then as soon as she would wake up, I would bring her out. Right? So that's the bonus of this. And I know there are some people that think other things as well, but this is also a safe place.
Yeah, and Nuggie had a pen, like she had a big X pen. Well, first she had like a little fabric one, and then she had an X pen. And we also did crate training, like kennel training, but for alone time, like she was more used to the pen. I think it's the same thing. We're just demonstrating it with a crate and a wire crate because then the people can see it. Right. Right? Yeah. So there's plastic crates, there's wire crates, there's fabric, there's all kinds of different things that you could use for travel or like for sleeping in or for vet visits or boarding. Or
So again, not to get in and break apart the whole crate thing. As far as we're concerned as trainers and behaviorists, it's a safe place.
It's a safe place, and we're going to use it appropriately. We're not going to lock the dog in there. So this is how we train it when we are going to use it in the way that we feel is appropriate.
Okay. So I've already been doing this a little bit, and as you guys have seen over the last few minutes, I've had her sort of going in and out. So I haven't shut the door yet. Correct. You also know is I'm not shoving her in. Right? She is going in on her own. I'm not luring her. I have the treats in my hand. But what she's figuring out, as soon as she goes in, I'm feeding at the back of the crate. So she's already figured out, again, she was sitting there, that if she stays in, then the treats come to her. Mm-hmm. Okay? So to me, this is half the battle.
Yeah, just getting them to go in.
Just getting them to go in,
Yeah, I've seen a few people lately, and I've talked about this in classes, but shoving them in just makes the whole thing more stressful. I love to have it on like an offered behavior.
Yeah.
So like, I point to the crate and they go in it, or for Nuggie, I put it on a verbal cue. So I say, kennel up, and she goes in her kennel.
So again, we're purposely sitting on the floor for this episode. I'm not just sitting there with a kennel, and you notice she's staying in there, but again, she'll offer. What you want them to do is start to almost offer, sort of going in and out. I, purposely brought this crate so everybody could see a little bit better. There are different crate games and stuff, videos on YouTube, and Susan Garrett does do like a whole DVD. So it depends on how much you guys want to go into this, but
this is the basics.
This is the basics, so we can definitely do more with it. So what I'm going to do, sort of my next thing is to gently shut the door. And then I'm not even going anywhere yet.
She says, excuse me.
I know. So, but again, she's not pawing at the door because I took the time to make the association. Once again, I'm feeding at the back.
Yeah.
Okay, of the kennel. And then what I'm going to do is open the door. And as you can see, she doesn't come out, because why would she?
Yeah,
she wants
fun stuff happening in there.
Fun stuff is happening. She wants the cookies at the back of the kennel. Treat and be here, back of the kennel. And then I'm going to close the door.
And I don't recall if you said, are you explaining why you're doing back of the kennel?
Oh, no, I don't think I did, actually. Reason why I'm feeding at the back of the kennel is I don't want them to feel like they have to rush the door.
Right.
So I'm rewarding for them just being back away and actually being more comfortable for being like in it.
Yeah, fully in the kennel, instead of like luring them in with little bits, right? If the dog was really nervous, we might start with like, just stick your head in the kennel or whatever. Yeah. But the other thing that I'm noticing is that there is a mat in the kennel, or bed in the kennel.
Yeah. So again, I'm not worried about her chewing it, right? Yes. Where sometimes we do have to worry about that. But that's something, that mat I'll also take out and do go to mat a little bit. So she
was trying to do something.
Yeah. So it's just making her more comfortable, has her smell. She's used to that mat. So again, just trying to make a positive association with it. Not to fast forward, but once I train the mat, train the crate, anytime I put them in there, I always give them a stuffed Kong or something. So there's always a positive relationship or a reward for going in here. Like when we left to come here, I picked up the little piece of sweet potato and Alfie ran into his kennel.
Yeah, and that's the same with like Stark he goes in my bedroom. So I take the Hung out of the freezer and he immediately runs to the bedroom. I grab the special Tilted Barn treats out of the fridge, and Nuggie runs to her kennel because she's like, that's where I want to have this.
So this time I actually encourage her to come right out, but you notice she came out and got the treat, and now she's going right back in.
Yeah, so she's going to offer you some in and out behavior.
And the other thing I'm watching for, like, I'm not opening the door. Like, if she was like clawing at the door and stuff, I would try to just have her relaxed a little bit and feeding back here before I open the door.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm opening it when she's actually nice and calm. So I'm saying calm behavior gets the door open, not sort of frantic. If your dog is frantic at this point, you've rushed.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be closing the door. I feel I'm at the appropriate stage to be closing the door. So then what I'm going to do we're a little bit tight here on space, but I opened it again. She's not quite coming out. I'm going to try one more time. to bring her out. She knows that treats happen when she goes in.
Yeah.
Okay. So this time I'm going to shut this, and then I'm going to leave it for a longer period of time. The other thing, what I would do, but like I said, due to our space here, is I probably would get up and move a little bit, but in here I'm not going to, but I wouldn't necessarily leave the room at the beginning either. But what I would do is slowly increase the time. So I'm going to give a treat there because she actually laid down.
Yeah. And that's another thing is, like, yes, she pawed a little bit, but it's because she knows she's getting treats, right? And so she's offering you different behaviors. Like, she tried the sit pretty, she offered you the down, and you liked that, so you chose to reward that one.
Right.
I think a lot of dogs will do that if they're not really sure what the game is, and they're like, why am I in here? What is this? They'll try behaviors. So they'll try pawing, or they'll try sitting, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can reward the ones that you like.
Yeah. So what I'm saying right now, what I would do is probably get up, move around. I would come back like I'm doing and feed when the scratching isn't happening. I would still feed at the back. And then, so what I'm saying is you can come back and forth and still reward without opening the door.
Right.
Okay. I know. Now
she's like, I will try new things.
So she's only interested, she could care less that this door and everything is closed. She's just interested in the cookies. And then I would come back and open it. And then what we do is we slowly progress, having it closed for longer times, rewarding, and then us physically going out of the room.
Yeah, or even if we're in the room, like at night and they're sleeping, working on having them maybe a little further away from you. Like with Nuggie, I started with her kennel on the bedside table. And then we worked on getting it onto the floor, and then a little bit further away. So, like, I'm still there, but I'm just a touch further.
Yeah.
And she could still relax.
And there, she goes back in. So, like I said, this is the beginning steps. And honestly, it's just like training anything. If you train it slowly and you're having successes and do it at the dog's comfort level, long term, this is awesome.
Yeah, right? And I think a lot of the time it's because it's rushed that we're seeing problems. Like, people get the dog, they put them in the kennel, they go to work, and then the dog now has a terrible association with the kennel because they've been stuck.
Yeah.
And so, now we're having to work past those feelings as opposed to just introducing it this way the first time.
Right.
And getting them used
so
to it.
we're just trying to say is if you take the time to introduce it right, and everybody says, well, I have to go back to work, this and that, well, maybe there's an option where they can stay with somebody for a few hours, or, it's very doable when you organize and plan, or even have the breeder foster start working the kennel. Like, you just sort of have to think of what's going to work best for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't we summarize a little bit as far as house training in general, crate or other.
Sure.
So we want to make sure that we understand that we are in charge of this. And if there is an oops, it's probably our fault. Chances are, like, a lot of people will think they're like revenge peeing or whatever.
In spite.
In spite, yes. Typically, it's just that we as the human have made a mistake. And we shouldn't do that next time.
Right. Learn from mistakes.
Yeah. So if you learn that, your puppy can go 5 hours without a potty break overnight, and then you try to push it to 6 the next night and it doesn't work out so well, maybe that was your fault. Right. So it's not to say that, we can't set certain expectations or like work toward different goals. Like, yes, we do want them to be able to sleep through the night and everything, but we're doing it with enough management in place so that they're not having an accident in between those times. We're watching their body language. We're watching them in the house. We're watching them outside of the house.
If we can't watch them in the house, we're doing the crate training, using the same door, going to the same potty spot. Start more often than you think, then slow down, as far as bringing them out in time. We talked about bells a little bit. We're going to sort of leave that sort of out there, whether people want to research that.
It has its uses, but it's not something that we necessarily are like, yes, everybody should do this.
Now, as far as the crate, we're going to encourage you, just like I did, to train it slowly, almost like you would a sitting and down, just having them go in and out. I find some dogs do prefer different types of kennels. Alfie likes his plastic Very kennel and does not like a wire kennel, and I think maybe he just feels he can see out and sort of likes the den light. So that's also something you can discover, right? Yeah. Different locations in the household for the kennel. It's okay to have the dog because they can sort of, they are hearing you breathing and that sort of thing to make them more comfortable. So that's an option as well. Think about it as for safety reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Again, figuring out, is this what it looks like? Or like Amelia said, is this door open and there's a pendant area, depending upon the size of the dog, depending upon the comfort. But a lot of time it's trial and error. So when we do consults, we make these suggestions and you just sort of have to try little things. And then when you have successes, then you feel pretty good about it. And then everybody's a little less stressed. But like I said, with this is once we get the door closed, we start moving around and we start increasing the time. We increase the time usually minutes, not necessarily 5, 10, 15 minutes at a time. Yeah. It depends on how well they're doing, but I usually find you sort of hit to a certain point where they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And you're able to push the time a little bit more. And then, like I said, then you're starting to leave for longer periods of time and then including leaving the house and that sort of thing. But honestly, guys, if you take the time for the house training, and I know it's a lot, we've done it. We've done large and small dogs. If you take the time to do it properly, long term, it's a huge payoff.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up.
It does.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. You can find us on our website at thedogclassroom.com or on social media. If you have any comments or suggestions for a future episode, please let us know, and we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you.